We need to be optimistic of the future. Credibility in the world market as a reliable supplier got dented, and painstakingly this industry was built. More than 6,500 crores used to go to the center. The state would get more than almost 60-70% of your total earnings. As of now, we have got only 8 million tons. That means those 9 blocks constitute roughly about 8 million tons. Your capacity is 20 million tons.
Is the government in the catch-22 situation where they want the mining and the revenue to come and also the votes to come? Mining was once upon a time the backbone of Goan economy. Today we are on the verge of restarting the mining industry. And I have a gentleman here whom I'd like to ask if he's happy, skeptical, and or maybe has any other feelings. I have with me Glenn Kalavampara, Secretary of GMOEA. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rohit.
As I rightly asked my audience, at the verge of resumption of mining, are you happy or are you skeptical?
Both. I'm very happy that there is some form of resumption finally chalked out now. Skeptical in the sense, any new operation begins with a lot of challenges. We had challenges when we initially started many years back, many decades back, but the situation is much better now since we have got the experience, and there will be some teething issues, but then these are issues that we will have to overcome. But we need to be optimistic of the future. Things will evolve, and we have to accept that things will change, and we have to adapt to that change. So from that perspective, as long as we adapt, that change is something constant. We will have to be optimistic and accept that.
You are saying that you have to be optimistic. I'm just wondering whether it is a same industry that I have grown up. Maybe I would say the golden years of mining industry, and I've been one of the maybe beneficiary or the stakeholder in that part of Goa. I have seen the best days of mining. I've seen the other days also. You have said that you have to be optimistic. There was an industry which for some reasons was stopped. Today it is resuming with a lot of filtration, lot of thought process to it. The state government and the central government both are on the same page and resuming the mining. Why are you saying you are optimistic? Because the same industry, it is just resuming after 10-12 years.
Well, any new beginning comes with some kind of new conditions, new kind of rules which are made. As much as you've seen the past where you were a part of the industry some years back, so was I. It's been nearly 30 years that I'm with this industry, and I've seen prior to the good days which happened in the mid 2000s, even the initial days in the mid 90s, where things were at a matured level. We had a different set of buyers, customers, and then we've seen the good times where volumes grew up, and then this stoppage, and now we are seeing the resumption. So from that perspective, and having seen the evolvement of changes, evolvement of new acts, new rules coming in the picture, and we can foresee that more may come in the future. Hence, the reason why I said that we need to be optimistic with a little bit flavor of accepting some change with a degree of skepticism also.
No, I have to give it to the industry because this industry started pre-liberation.
Yes.
It has evolved over the years. There has always been both the people and the government and the industry has worked in parallel lines, except a brief period of time. Now again it is resuming. I really want to ask you is what is this uniqueness of this mining industry that is pre-liberation, now we see the government, and now with a new set of changes with respect to auctions happening. How are you seeing this evolution?
Well, you asked a very generic point of uniqueness. How was this very unique? Prior in the past, the concessions that were granted were under a different regime altogether. When Goa became a part of India in 1961, mining was not stopped. It continued. Even when the concessions were converted into leases in 1987, there was no stoppage in operations. Operations continued. It's been only in 2012 that we had this issue where the matter went to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court thought it fit that we stop and we restart, and we restart with probably new quantum which they have quantified. So we've seen that phase which was very unique, and let me tell you that during the past, the situation was far more complicated in the sense, these were all virgin areas.
Correct.
You painstakingly converted those areas
Created
into
infrastructures.
You added infrastructure. There was no port for you. There was no dedicated berth. The dedicated berth number 9, as we famously called, came in 1983. You were operating in from 1950s onwards. Okay, so from the advent of the first barge being imported, then you have had a history of shipyards being built in Goa, entrepreneurship getting developed. Today you are building barges and you are exporting barges as well. So we have seen that level of entrepreneurship develop over the years. You've seen the development happening over port operations over the years. You had the advent of transshippers brought in even before the berth came inside. You had the beneficiation plants which we are talking about now, which were in place from 1980s as far as Goa was concerned, because you were very concerned about what you were sending out. Export market was so much more demanding at that time, and with the advent of the major players today in exports, that is Australia and Brazil, you had to be competitive to stay alive in this business. So you have seen those stages where you had to struggle quite a bit to, in fact, even be able to sell your ore. It was not something that was very easy, and painstakingly this industry was built over a period of time. And now when we see that the grants are being granted through the process of auctions, this is a new law. Okay, it went in from 2015 onwards. Goa government has commenced the operation from December 22. First lot of 9 blocks have been auctioned. We are very hopeful that one block from there is almost in the process of starting, barring some issues of transportation, which we hope that to be resolved.
I want to ask you is, I will go to the issues that we are facing post the auction process and the resumption of mining. I really want to ask you is, the industry stopped over a course of time. I really want you to make a layman understand what did we lose from 2012 till maybe this recent year, 2022. So in 10 years, what did the state lose? And why are we so dependent on the center for every single project of ours?
See, you are one of the biggest economy there. Between mining and tourism, these were the two pillars that were considered fundamental as far as Goa's economy was considered. When you had one of the pillar, dismantled, you had to depend on the other pillar only. Okay, this was one sector that was providing you not just foreign exchange, not just income to the state government's revenue, but it was also generating a huge potential of employment within that mining belt, which
Correct.
was different from tourism, because tourism in Goa was mostly coastal. Correct. And we were in the midlands. So it was a blend of both, which provided Goa the best fit without interfering with each other. So from that perspective, when you had one pillar of the arm losing it, it's like you walking with a crutch today. You have one leg and you're using the crutch. So what Goa lost in the bargain was it lost not just the revenue. It created a huge issues with employment. It also ensured that your credibility in the world market as a reliable supplier got dented. Because when you stopped, the importers started fielding somewhere else, and they got some buy somewhere else. So So today when I look back, I need to rebuild that trust, which I painstakingly built over a period of time. And I'm hopeful that, this being a reliable supplier in the past, the potential of accepting me back tomorrow would be a little easier than perhaps to a new player coming altogether.
That confidence you have still.
Well,
I'm
we
really
have to work towards it. It's you see, when I say that we need to work towards it, we also need to look at from the perspective from the buyers. A buyer will also keep changing. The same people who were there in the past have changed. New people have come down the line. The conditions have become more stringent over a period of time. You need to be competitive to be successful in this business. And for you to be competitive, you have to first ensure that your operations are fundamental without creating any impediment of any stoppages. You need to be a reliable supplier, not just in quality, but in terms of your quantity and within time
correct.
with competitive base with the rest of the other two suppliers.
Glenn, I think over the course of time, what we have seen is people, buyer, industry, mine owners, all the stakeholders, the employee, everybody was in sync. They were on the same lines. Yes. Recently, what has happened is you said about auctions as well. So auctions happened, and after auction, now apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, the state government earns quite a handsome royalty. Is the biggest stakeholder, if I may say so. And when I say the government is the biggest stakeholder and the most revenue comes to government, it is the people who is the beneficiary. Yes. So apparently there was once upon a time that we used to say that ABC guys were the mine owners and the big shots and stuff like that. Today I believe we can rightly say that the people of Goa are the stakeholders and are the big shots. So if the government is earning certain revenue, royalty, then the royalty and the revenue goes to the infrastructure and to the people of the state. Yes. Are people aware of this?
For him to be aware of it, it's going to take a little time. Because you've built on a system wherein you were seen as a mining company which was providing lots of benefits. One thing for sure is that today the government, as you mentioned it rightly, is the biggest beneficiary. And from that perspective, it's the people of Goa, and for that matter, people of the state, who are actually richly benefited. In fact, let me just correct you by saying that at never in the past, this perception of being a mine owner, as some people said that you are having the biggest wealth. It was not the mine owner who was actually generating. He was working under a set of rules and regulations at that particular point of time. And if those at that particular point of time provided for certain returns to the government, he was doing nothing wrong. So when I look back now, I first of all wonder, using the word mine owner sometimes had a little bit of a bearing, because then the perception changes that, oh, you are a mine owner, you think that you are the taker of the wealth, whereas actually you are a leaseholder. The minerals belong to the government. That's fundamentally clear. Okay, the concept, when we use the word mine owner, we get a feeling that it's the individual who's making the money. In what way is the mineral development getting promoted in a way that it's benefiting the state? We are actually drawing ourselves into loops by getting into issues of wondering why X is getting more than Y, and why Y is getting. Let's not get into that debate. Let's get into what is the benefit that Goa is going to reap over a period of time, and what is the benefit that the state of Goa and the citizens should rightly get some part of this benefit. It can be in terms of better infrastructure. It can be better institutions that can be built,
facilities, maybe social welfare schemes.
True. even in the past, quite of this substantial revenue that the mining industry was actually generating was subsidizing a lot of other essential works for the common man, which people never realized.
Which was a easy affair for the government to do because they
Yes,
had that
they
revenue
had the
coming.
revenue. Today they don't have the revenue, so therefore, some
It's a
taxes are
challenge.
being increased, tariff rates are going up, and now you feel that why is it going up?
So if I want to break it down, the revenue that the government, just a number maybe approximate, the government that has earned over the last 10 years without the mining, vis-a-vis prior to the mining being there with us, what is the revenue difference that you would say?
I would say when we were stopped in 2012, probably the kind of revenue the state government was generating was close to maybe about 1,200 odd crores. Okay, royalty itself out of that was close to 1,000 crores, and put together the other taxes, it was another 200, 300 crores. This is for the state government. But more than 3 times used to go to the center, because you see we had an export duty of 30% at that particular point of time. More than 6,500 crores used to go to the center. Now, people don't realize that 6,000 crores was going to the center. People say that we were getting only 12 and a half 1,200 crores as compared to what was otherwise the industry getting. But the industry was also not getting something substantially high, because our grades of ore did not command a very good price as compared to the grades that the other states or other countries had. But anyway, so what the prior to 2012, this was the level. Post 2012 till now, there's been a fall, and our realization, our income to the state government has been obviously hampered because of that. Now, when we look at auctions being granted, and the revenue that the state will get will be much higher as compared to what was in 2012, because there's an element of the beat sharing requirement, the DMF, the royalty rates have gone to 15% in 2013-14. So all these taxes have actually enhanced in the period when we were actually stopped. So when we start, we safely assume that more revenues the state would get. In fact, the state would get more than almost 60-70% of your total earnings
Because of the auctions
because of
and the new process that
because
is
of this new process.
Okay, again speaking about auction, I really want to ask you is when auctions were held, there were blocks, and apparently there were some routes which were to be used for the transportation. Now, I really want to ask you is apparently we hear certain news with respect to issues been created in this transportation of ore. How are you looking at this particular matter? Because the companies have paid the stakeholders, the government, and now when I am to resume a operation, I face certain issues. How are you looking at this particular issue first of all, and how are you looking forward to resolve it basically?
I wish I could resolve it. But let me tell you that this matter is seized with the court right now. Over the past few months, we have had a lot of hearings, and more so in the last few days. And I think the court has given us patient hearing. It's heard perspective from all the sides, from the petitioner, from the government, from the industry, and hopefully this issue will resolve. But let me, and I would not like to say much more because the matter is with the court. But the only point that I would like to say is that this entire episode of issues that came up in the paper, this thing started because of one stray case of a trading company using a non-traditional route, maybe for the first time, and that's created this kind of an impediment for the entire sector. Because the court said that till this issue was decided, let's have some kind of a stoppage plan.
But my question to you, who should have acted on this?
Obviously the government should have acted on it, because it should realize that mining is just not extracting minerals. It has to move it from point A to
Logistics
point B.
is involved.
Logistics is fundamental to the to the entire sector, and we were always using traditional routes. And even if any new routes were done, in certain cases dedicated routes, in fact dedicated routes needs to be further incentivized. I mean, you need to encourage it because you're not coming in contact with the public transport routes. But nevertheless, let's not dwell much on the issue because the courts are seized of it, and we hope that uh,
So you feel that there needs to be a new thought process to this as well, logistics when it is involved, and also maybe certain different things that has to be incorporated, whether it is with respect to maybe timings, so that you have minimal contact with the people of the villages where the route is passing by.
Logistics is a extremely vital wing as far as our sector is concerned. That needs some kind of a development for sure. Okay, when we say development for sure, we mean from what I look at it from the perspective of how carbon emissions can be reduced. You need to look at it afresh. You have started your second innings now, with so much new conditions. You have gone through such a rigorous process. You've got an environmental clearance which has detailed out each and everything how things needs to be done. So you need to look from how can you improvise over what you were doing before. And if this means that you need to look at certain aspects of using high capacity trucks, you need to look at it because that's what everybody else is doing. You also need to look at how does this communication or this intergovernmental issues can be sorted out to some
The
extent.
dialogue between the government,
Dialogue
the
between
people,
the-
and the stakeholders.
Absolutely. Because if I have invested such a huge amount in getting the lease back, all that I require now is for the government to say that there are no more hurdles which are created.
Support from the people and the government.
Support is required because you're generating that revenue, and that revenue is actually getting
Going
back
to the people.
to the
of
people.
Goa.
So there should be no reasons why things should be obstructed and created. You can't make the industry which has gone through all this process go through such a hurdle at the time of commencement. But
Okay.
of course, I'm very hopeful that the bench has heard it, and just hope that this issue will be resolved at the earliest.
Okay, you mentioned in our conversation District Mineral Fund, and I believe Goa set an example way before this fund was created and had a certain fund provision where all the mining companies came together and worked for the benefit of the people, especially the mining belt.
Yes.
To be very specific, because they were the biggest stakeholder in this entire exercise. Whatever was required was spoken to them directly and got it done. After I think 2015, this DMF was formed. I really want to ask you are you happy because you are part of it? Are you happy the way it has been benefiting people? Even I believe during COVID also a certain portion was used for the people in general. But how are you looking at this DMF fund and especially the utilization of people to the person who is actually part of the industry?
Well, you started off by saying that we had our own institution before the DMF came. Yes, it was somewhere in '98 that we had a dialogue with TERI, Tata Energy Research Institute, at that particular point of time. And they conceptualized this creation of this foundation, Mineral Foundation of Goa. It was formed in 2000. And with the concept of addressing from down top approach rather than the top down approach. So painstakingly we had a lot of grassroots interaction with villages in the mining belt obviously, because our concentration was always in the mining belt of Goa. And projects what was needed by the community were kind of projects which were accepted and done. Okay, so in 2015 we have a new mandate. We have a compulsory entrustment of utilization of similar projects to be done through the district mineral fund, which is government hold. held under the MMDR Act. There are several people, committee members on that. I'm also one of them. Uh, but this is a more, what can you say, processed way of getting things done, in the sense that the villager may have a lot of issues, may approach the mining company because they're closest over there at that particular point of time. But in case they want it to be done to the DMF, there's a process wherein they need to make these applications, and that application has to go to the line departments. Line departments have to put it up, they have to screen the project, and then it gets approved. So it may look a little frustrating to the villager because he is not getting his things done, but that's the process.
Earlier, it used to
It's
be happening at the corporate fashion. Now it is bureaucratic fashion.
well, it would seem as if the bureaucrat, when you say that, the bureaucratic process is a little slow, but all that I can say that at the end of the day is that the villager is complaining, but he needs to understand that these are the new set of rules. It's not right on him to be aggressive towards the mining company, because the chunk of funds are routed through this DMF, and things are progressing from that particular fashion. But at the hindsight, I must also say that I also would welcome that these projects which are actually done through the DMF are projected out to people of Goa, because people of Goa need to understand how these funds have been utilized, where they've been spent, what are the beneficiaries, who are the beneficiaries, how they have been impacted. For some reasons, despite this being addressed in the past, we are still being informed that it's getting developed, the website is getting developed, but I think the faster it gets developed and people know,
is better for the people.
transparency will be there, right?
Correct.
So then people won't have the apprehension that whether it's used properly, not used properly. Yes, during COVID time, as you said, there were certain directions that were received by all the
Those were
stakeholders
special cases.
those were special.
Now the most important question is there are people who want to stop the mining, who don't want mining to begin, and there are people who want the mining to happen. Now at times there are some people who would say that government is catering to mining lobby and stuff like that. I really want to know, is the government in the catch-22 situation where they want the mining and the revenue to come and also the votes to come, because that's how politicians function. So how are you looking into this particular aspect, and how should we move out of this particular phase?
Well, there would always be somebody who is disgruntled with the way things are resuming, But at the end of the day, what we are starting is a legal operations of business. Any activity, whether you want X or Y, it has to have some process how it has to be done. You simply cannot say that I need to be working that mine. If you need to be working that mine, you better apply, you bid for that process, you win the auction, and then you commence. These are laws of the country. You cannot have any other in between moment. And there are several processes where you can raise your concern or objection. For example, before you get environmental clearance, you have a public hearing. If you have any issues at that particular point of time, you need to raise it. It needs to be addressed and thereafter considered, and then collectively a holistic decision is taken whether to grant, not grant, what capacity, what other conditions to be put in. Having got all these things, for someone to say that it should not start as you start by saying, doesn't seem to be fair. It for any business for that matter, having gone through the entire process to later say that these are not to be considered doesn't seem very justified to me.
You challenge the entire process that has gone through.
Absolutely, it would challenge the entire process that has gone through it.
Okay, a way forward, there are a couple of issues that, I would like your frank opinion on. This is with respect to logistics is what we have spoken. Waterways or ports is also something that you would like to, maybe if you can summarize the way forward for this industry to go back to its glory days and benefit the people more importantly. not just certain aspects or stakeholders, but it is the people who should be beneficiary of this entire exercise, which was there once upon a time, and we are on the verge of resuming it back and achieving that glory back.
Well, when you say that improvement in logistics, said as far as road network is concerned, quite a bulk of this traditional routes were actually done up by the industry themselves in the past, widening or new. And if there are volumes, probably some consideration of bypass routes can be seen to be taken if there are volumes and if there are, certain restrictions in certain areas. As far as inland waterways are concerned, and this needs to be appreciated because inland waterways are probably the most efficient and most environmentally safe manner in transporting your entire volumes. So Goa is blessed with a network of inland waters. We are discussing with the government, we are discussing with the port, captain of ports, the Inland Waterways Authority, to see how and in the best manner how these waterways can be served to ensure that efficiencies improve, impediments if there are any, shallow patches if there are any can be done, because that's where the government is inclined to put their funds, but it's jointly to be done with the central government, state government, with the industry's perspective. When we come to the ports, as you may be aware that we don't have a dedicated berth as of now, because after the fall of the industry, the port also thought it
It is not feasible to keep it a lot specific.
yes, exactly. So they had kind of dismantled all the equipments there and are probably looking at how things can resolve in the future. And as of now, we have got only 8 million tons. That means those 9 blocks constitute roughly about 8 million tons. Your capacity is 20 million tons. You have only achieved 40% of what you are expected to, do. So once we have more mines being auctioned, because that's going to be the way of ensuring grants in the future, probably at that particular level, then not only the revenue will go up, but then there'll be more clarity on how and what port operations will have to be handled in the future. But having said that, there's no doubt that there has to be an improvement in all sectors. Industry is for development. Industry is for this kind of development. Industry would never shy away from taking certain responsibilities which it feels can be in the benefit of both the government and the industry. Quite a bit of their share is already parked in various funds like DMF, some of which are actually saying the same thing, that we will do this infrastructure development. So probably some kind of partnership can happen and we can look at something better.
Very true.
Yeah.
I think after this conversation, today the state government generates more revenue than the company who is actually operating the mine,
Yes.
if I may use this word. And there's a still perception that mining is still the cash cow. But I would suggest the owner of the cow is not even the government but the people of Goa. I think I want to end it on that note. Glenn, thank you very much for sharing your valuable thoughts. We are on the verge of starting the mining industry. I believe, as you said, we are optimistic and we should look forward towards this optimism and achieve what the glory days we had seen in the past, and which will enable us as people and also the government to ensure that the benefits are given to the people at the end of the day.
Sure.
Pleasure it was, Glenn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rohit. It was nice talking to you.